So this is my second video tutorial on different kinds of layout in Android. So on this video, we are going to check it out about linear layout. So how the elements would be placed in this linear layout. So, so what are the attributes or what are the important attributes of this particular linear layout? So let's check it out. So the important attribute here is the orientation. So the orientation value can be either vertical or horizontal. Means the elements whichever that are placed on this particular linear layout is either placed horizontally or vertically in a sequential order. Okay, so where do I define this particular orientation? So this orientation attribute is assigned in the layout itself. So what it means? So the starting tag of your linear layout. So I'm going to include this particular orientation attribute in the starting tag of the linear layout. Okay. So what if I haven't assigned any orientation for this linear layout? So by default, if I don't assign any orientation, the linear layout consider itself as a horizontal orientation. So when you don't mention add right column orientation or equals vertical or horizontal, if you don't mention this particular attribute line in your layout, so it would defaultly take it as horizontal layout. Okay, so based on the orientation assigned, the controls will be either placed in vertical sequential order or in horizontal sequential order. Okay, so I'm going to use some other attributes too in this particular linear layout to make the UI somewhat meaningful. So meaningful are so with some gaps. So between the controls. So it wouldn't look nice if there is no spaces between the controls. So when it is placed either in vertical sequential order or horizontal sequential order. So I would be using this other attributes. So I would be using other attributes also to align the elements that is present in this particular linear layout. Okay, what are they? So I'm going to use some other attributes which can be applicable for other layouts too, which means you can use this other attributes in other layouts and also in controls. Okay, so what are those attributes I'm going to use here? So the first one would be padding, the second one would be layout underscore margin, third would be layout underscore gravity and gravity. So I will be using these attributes to align some spaces between the controls or in the layout. So just like margin or a padding. Okay. So this gravity thing is used to align the controls to some gravity. So either gravity left, gravity right or center, and we do have more choices in this gravity also. Okay, along with this, we are going to check what is mean by wrap content and match parent, that is assigned for the layout underscore height and layout underscore width. Okay, so now let's start the practical. So in this tutorial, we are going to check how the elements are placed in the linear layout. So we are going to check a practical demonstration on linear layout. So first let me create a separate XML file for linear demonstrating linear layout. So I'm just right clicking on the layout folder. So new XML layout XML file. So the root tag is already in linear layout. I don't have to change this particular thing. So this is your parent tag. Okay. So I'm marking this particular XML file name as layout underscore linear. So I'm just clicking on finish. So let me check the text area. So here I have a starting tag and ending tag. So with only two attributes. So layout underscore width and layout underscore height. So I haven't mentioned any orientation here. So by default, it doesn't comes with any orientation. So I have to specify the orientation. So if you haven't specified any orientation, by default, it would take it as horizontal orientation. Okay, so let me mark the orientation. Okay, so this is that particular orientation. So I have only two values, either vertical or horizontal. So first let us check the vertical. So I have marked the orientation as vertical. So now I am going to place elements in this particular linear layout. Okay, so I'm going to just drag and drop a button in this particular layout. So I'm just taking a button, so I'm placing it here. So actually I place the button here, this area, but it aligns to the top of the layout. This white space is on linear layout. Okay, so when I set the orientation as horizontal, so it moves up to the top of the layout. So I'm placing another button, so that is also placed next to that button. I'm placing another button, so that is to align to the top of the second button. Okay. So I don't have any spaces in between. So the elements are, the controls are placed in the vertical sequential order. So now I'm going to check the text area. So in this text area, so I have placed the three buttons here. Okay. So before going to the horizontal orientation, I want to make sure I want to just mention about the layout underscore width and layout underscore height. So this particular two attributes are available in all the controls and in the layout. So with values something like match parent and also like wrap content. Okay. So what is match parent? What is wrap content? So first let me mark it every all the controls with us wrap content. Okay. Oh, so I have marked everything, every width and height as wrap content. So what does this wrap content means? Actually, there would be three values for this particular width or height. So one is wrap content. So another one is match parent. Another one is fill parent. So as you can see here, so this is wrap parent, wrap content. This is match parent, and this one, the last one would be fill parent. So now let us check what is wrap content means. I would like to demonstrate this particular wrap content with the attribute layout underscore width. Okay. So this width is marked as wrap content. What does that mean? So whatever the contents present inside this particular button, it wraps to that particular size. Means so the button contains the letters button. Okay, so the button contains the text names buttons. So it would be of 6 letters. So what is the space required to display this 6 letters? That size would be allocated to its width. So when I change this particular button text, okay, so I'm going to change this particular and colon text. So just check out what is happening with this button with size. So I'm marking it as button and scissors. So when I give buttons and scissors, the width of that particular button automatically increases. Okay, so that is actually the future of wrap content. So whatever the content inside the button, so it wraps to that particular content available in that particular controls, and this can be applicable for any controls. Okay, so I have changed the text for button. So likewise in other controls like text view, so when you place a text view here with wrap content, when you change the text of that particular text view, so that particular width size would be also increasing when you assign it as wrap content. Okay, so this is what we call it as wrap content. So when I mark this as, so before going to match parent, let me describe what is this controls parents and this linear layouts child. Okay, so this is my component tree section. So I can see all the elements here listed here. So first one would be my linear layout. So this is my main parent. Okay, so in this particular layout, so this linear layout is the main parent. So under this particular linear layout, my childs are present. So linear layouts child is this button, button 2, button 3. These three things are child of this particular linear layout. This three child's parent is this particular linear layout. I hope you get it. Okay. Mm, so back to the text view. So now so this three buttons parent is now this particular linear layout. So I'm going to change this particular buttons width to match parent. Okay. So what happens in my preview? So the width is aligned to the size of the linear layout. This white color area is all my linear layout. So starting the linear layout starts from here to and ends here in width, and it starts from the top to bottom. Okay, so when I have assigned this as match parent, so this particular button aligned to the size of the size of its parent. So that's why we call it as match parent. Okay. So what's the other term then? Fill parent. So match parent is introduced in the AP level 8. Okay. So fill parent is introduced. Okay. So deprecated starting from the AP level 8. So what does it mean is if you are generating apps with AP level less than 8, you should be using fill parent because match parent cannot be used in AP levels less than 8. Okay, so if you are going to use this particular feature, so both match parent and fill parent has the same feature. Only the APA differs. From APA level 8, this fill parent is deprecated. Okay. So if you are generating apps with AP level less than 8, you must be using fill parent. Okay. What if I change this particular height to match parent? So my button size, what happens is, so my button size layout underscore height, so it occupies fully the button starting from here, it ends only here because what's my parent? This particular linear layer. As I mentioned previously, all the white screens are linear layer. So where are those two buttons? So it hides below this particular button and scissor buttons. Okay, so back to normal. So I'm marking this as wrap content. Okay, so this is actually what is match parent and wrap content. So should I use only those two values in this width and height? No. Actually, I can use user defined values too. So user defined, what is user defined? So I can change this to some values. So 300, I cannot just mention it as 300. I have to include some units with it. So I'm using 300 dp. So the same 300 dp for height too. So what happens now here is the width is assigned to the size of 300 width and 300 height. Okay, so 300 dp. So what is dp? So it is actually a unit. Unit in the sense, should I use only dp? No. So you do have three options. So you can use dp or sp or px. So you can use any of these options. So, but the recommended thing is this particular dp. So you can use dp or px or sp. So what's the difference? Why dp is recommended? So if you use sp or px, so whenever you use different screen resolution, whenever you uh, preview your UI in different screens resolutions, if you are able to use, if you are using SP or PX, So the size differs, so the size does not alter itself. Okay, so you may have some compatibility view issues if you are using SP or PX. So DP is always recommended for any screen size or resolutions in your devices. Okay, so let me change this back to wrap content. Okay, so this is all about wrap content and match parent. Okay, so there are two options in match parent. So two options like fill parent and match parent. You can use any one of this, but if you are using this particular feature, so if you want to match to the size of the parent in the app which is created under the API level of 8, you must use fill parent. Okay, so less than 8 you should use fill parent. Greater than 8 you can use any one of those, either fill parent or match parent. So that's all about this wrap content and match parent stuff. Okay, so let us quickly check the other attributes which we would be using for creating a space. Okay, so first let me go with padding. So I would like to demonstrate both padding and margin in this same button so that you would be knowing the difference between those two attributes. So first let us go with padding. So I have different options in padding. So I have padding, padding bottom, padding end, padding left, right, start, top, everything. So you can choose any one of this padding options. So let me just check with padding top. So I would be assigning some values with DP. So I would be assigning 100 DP for this padding top. So what this padding top actually means is it would create a space inside that particular control. So whichever control I'm using this particular padding top, so it would create a space with respect to that particular control. In that particular control, it would be creating some space. So since I have created for padding top, I have space generated in the top of the button. Okay. So what happens when I give the other options? So if I am using only padding, it takes up space in all the directions. So it takes up 100 dp space in the top of this particular text, in the to the left of this particular text, right and bottom. So all the sides is containing 100 dp. This side also 100, this side 100, this top area is also 100, bottom area is also 100. Okay, so when you mention only padding, it allocates spacing on the sides of the particular control. Okay, so likewise you do have other options too. If you are mentioning it as padding bottom, so only in the bottom that 100 spacing is taken. Okay, So now let's go with margin. So I mean layout underscore margin. So I'm going to use layout underscore margin. Okay, so this is that option. So here also I do have diff different options. So layout underscore margin bottom, layout underscore margin end, top, right, start, left, everything would be available. So to tell the difference, I am just taking the margin tab alone. So what happens now? So if when I use layout underscore margin tab equals 100 dp, so I have a space above that particular control. So this is the main difference between the padding and margin. Okay, so layout underscore margin. So when you specify the attribute padding, it would take space inside the control. When you mention as layout underscore margin, it would be taking space outside the control. So likewise, so margin tab in the sense this particular area, this area is that 100 dp. Okay, so what if I have given only margin? So it takes up space to in all the directions. So above this button 100 dp, left of this button 100 dp, right 100 dp, and bottom also 100 dp. So this is the main difference between padding and layout. Okay, so let us now decide where to use those things. So margin can be used in all the controls or the layouts. Most probably padding, the padding attribute would be used in the layout section. So to just to create a empty spaces before assigning all the controls. So I would just like to use Android colon padding equals some 40 dp. Okay. So what happens here? So I would mark this margin to 50 dp. Okay. So what happens here? So I have marked this linear layout padding size to be 40 dp. So where this 40 dp is allocated. So as I mentioned previously, this white space is all the linear layout and these elements are placed on that particular linear layout. Okay, so this 40 dp is available in, so I have just mentioned only the padding, so it would take space inside that particular layout with 40 dp. So here I would be having some 40 dp, this area I would be having some 40 dp, the below area bottom I would be having some 40 dp, and to the left also. So on the sides I would be having this particular 40 dp. Okay, now let's just check the horizontal orientation. Let's check how it works when I change the orientation to horizontal. So let me remove, before demonstrating that horizontal orientation, let me remove all the extra attributes available. So I'm marking the text as button 1, button 2, button 3. So the code is not aligned properly. So it has some lines or something. So some spaces, and it is the code is not formatted. To format the code, the shortcut key would be, so Control Shift, sorry, Control Alt L. So when you give this particular L, Control Alt L, so the code would be formatted and aligned neatly. Okay. So everything is up to the mark. So I'm going to change the orientation to horizontal. So what happens when I change it to horizontal? So the buttons which are aligned sequentially vertically is now changed to horizontal. So whenever the orientation is horizontal and I place things, that is the linear layout child, whenever I'm adding some child, it would be adding to the horizontally. It would be aligned horizontally in the layout. So let me add another button. So when I drag and drop another button, so it would be placed in the very next to the third button. Okay. So this is all about orientation horizontal. So what happens when I need to set things in both vertically and horizontally? So I'm going to demonstrate a nested layout. So that is a layout inside another layout. So this particular parent linear layout would be having a child of another linear layout. So suppose if I need to have um, these two buttons aligned vertically and these two buttons aligned horizontally, so I'm going to perform a vertical. So I'm going to perform a layout with orientation vertical, which is having a linear layout with orientation horizontal as its child. So linear layout. So that would be wrap content. The same for height also. Okay. So I'm just putting this down. So I have marked this particular thing. So linear layout. So I would just take off this particular N linear layout ending tag. So I'll place it at the end of this button so that this particular linear layout child is these two particular buttons. Okay. So as you see now, everything is set up. So these two particular buttons are aligned vertically and these two buttons are aligned horizontally. So now let's just check the component tree. So I have a linear layout, a parent linear layout and its child elements. Let's look at the child elements. What are the child elements available in this particular linear layout? So this thing, button 1 is aligned vertically. This button 2 is also aligned vertically. The third element is another layout which is set orientation equals horizontal. So this particular horizontal linear layout is present inside the vertical linear layout. Okay, so this we call it as nesting of layouts. Doesn't mean that I can only use in the nesting of layouts. Doesn't mean that I can only use only linear layout. So you can use another layout instead. For example, so in this linear layout, you can use inside an absolute layout, linear layout, relative layout, table layout, or a frame layout, whatever it may be. And the same for match parent also. So I can have a relative layout as a parent and its child as linear layout, frame layout, whatever may be the layout. So you can have multiple nestings too. So just like in web applications, we do have tables. So tables which containing other tables and that table containing another tables. Just like that, we would be having this nesting of layouts. So it can be of any number of nestings. So it's based on your requirements, what you are going to perform. Okay. So in this particular example, I have nested two linear layout. Okay. So the next one, so I have already mentioned that other two attributes. So that particular, so I have already mentioned padding and margin, layout underscore margin. The gravity and layout underscore gravity properties can be explained well better in frame layout. Okay, so that's it for this particular linear layout. Thanks and have a nice day. This is Aaron from Tippy and Tricky signing off. Bye.